About the one who has to be persecuted is Judge Hlophe for his radical views about the transformation of the judiciary. Judge Hlophe advocates that the judiciary should be transformed. He's been advocating for this before the MK party was established. And continued to advocate for the issue until he was sacrificed by black people as a sacrificial lamb to the white system, getting him kicked out of the judiciary for his radical views. So he had previously filed a complaint. So I want to share this so that people understand what is the reason Judge Hlophe is actually victimized. His views are radical about the transformation of judiciary. Let's hear.
And colored by, defined also by inequality.
Correct. I think now that you have actually, identified the challenge that we might still have in terms of, having presiding officers at the High Court, or be it magistrate, who are not yet transformed to actually, come to embrace these principles and values that drive this about social change, because obviously the work that you do does have an impact in what happens in the society.
Yes.
Now, what do you think about the South African, judiciary as a whole?
Well, I'm part of the South African judiciary. Remember, I think we obviously, it's a learning curve. We still all have a long way to go, but the most important thing is that we must embrace the Constitution as we go along. We must make sure that the values and the principles that are enshrined in the Constitution are in fact internalized.
Yes.
I'm one person who has openly said, for instance, judgments, particularly of the Constitutional Court, must be short and straight to the point.
Exactly.
I mean, why should I have a judgment which is 88 pages telling me why the death penalty is outlawed, instead of just a 10-page judgment, which basically says the right to life is so important, you can't give it away. I don't want a judgment which is 88 pages. They must be so short, written in simple language, so that even a taxi driver can understand.
Yes.
That would be just one way of ensuring that we internalize the Constitution sooner rather than later.
Yes.
Because for me it is important that all South Africans, particularly those who fought for this Constitution, all South Africans must benefit from the Constitution.
Correct.
We can't have a situation whereby people, the vast majority of South Africans, because they are poor, they have no access to land, they've got no access to the economic resources, they have no access to justice, they are marginalized, yet these are the very people who fought for liberation.
Right. So I think
I have never understand this. Judge Hlophe is talking about making judiciary or making documents or making court judgments understandable, making court judgments understandable by the ordinary person. At the end of the day, I don't even understand why we should have lawyers. I really don't understand, because at the end of the day, the person who has to go to jail if found guilty is not the lawyer, is the person who is accused. So the person who is accused should be able to understand the law in a proper way, that they can defend themselves if they are not guilty. So this law, which even if you are not guilty, because you don't understand the law, you will not be able to defend yourself, then this is not common law. We cannot call it common law for us, because at the end of the day, I need to be the person who understands what the magistrate is saying, and I need to be the person who is able to defend myself. At the end of the day, it's me. If I'm in front of the judge, it's me who is going to be innocent or found guilty. So I should understand the law better, for me to be able to defend myself. I should not be relying on lawyers. So, like ordinary people, the law should be as simple to that extent that even the ordinary person does understand. The African law was practiced like that. It was very simple to understand, that even children could understand what is happening. So now, if an adult who is guilty of something cannot understand why he is guilty of that thing, then that law should actually be looked at in a different way, so that more things can be understood from the law. We really need to understand the law. The people who are standing before the magistrate have to understand the law, not the lawyers. Because at the end of the day, people are found guilty because they did not understand the law, while people are innocent.
I think you've said quite a mouthful information, stuff about, how the judiciary, in terms of, the court judgments that are issued out there, need to be actually approached in a manner in which people, like, for example, myself, I'm not legal expert. I know nothing about that. And yet you find that there's this, 500 pages of a court judgment. In order for people such as myself, what approach do you think should actually be followed in making sure that we actually have this accessible court outcomes, and we get to understand what is actually said in those outcomes of the court?
My approach has always been keep your judgments. The judges should keep their judgments simple, short, straight to the point. Do not decide issues that you are not called upon to decide, and avoid, as far as possible, referring to foreign law.
Okay.
That's where I have a problem with, for instance, courts that tend to go to other jurisdictions, for instance, Western world, to go to try and find solutions which will apply to Africa.
Yes.
That seldom works. If we need any solution, particularly in the context of the Constitution, I do not understand why there is always reference to German law, Canadian law. We should look to South Africa for solutions.
Correct.
Because our problems are peculiar to us. I don't think we'll ever find solution in those jurisdictions.
Well, I'm wondering, as the head of, the judiciary in the Western Cape, what sort of steps are you taking into addressing, the various concerns you're raising?
Well, normally we have had in the past some kind of judicial training. One of the things that are done, I've often done that myself. We help judges, aspirant judges, get trained by SAJ, which is South African Judicial Education Institution.
Okay.
One of the things that is done is teach judges how to write judgments.
Oh.
I often do it myself in the Western Cape, address lower court judicial officers, magistrates, regional magistrates, newly appointed judges. I think there's a great deal of improvement.
Okay.
One other complicating factor in judgments is the use of Latin. I still don't understand why judges use Latin in their judgments. It's a dead language. It's not even lectured. I mean, it is not even a requirement for having a law degree.
Yes.
When I did my LLB in those days, you had to do Latin. It's no longer even a requirement.
Yes.
The vast majority of the young generation lawyers do not study Latin.
Yes.
Yet you still find judges using Latin in their judgments. That adds to the problem. So in my view, judgments must be simple, address the issues, use simple English or any official language that is being used, but obviously the language of record is English.
Yes.
Straight to the point. Simple English.
So
Keep
you
it
would
simple.
actually agree that there should be some form of decolonization taking
Of the
form in the
mind.
judiciary.
Undoubtedly, decolonization of the mind. I think
Yes.
we aspire, we want to look scholarly, we want to look like House of Lords judges, we want to look like judges of the Supreme Court of America. The circumstances are totally
Different because we're in
The
Africa.
vast majority of our people have no access to justice by complicating judgments, making them unduly scholarly and long. We are in fact denying the very people access to justice. Because in order for an ordinary human being, let's say a teacher, an average but educated human being, you will never understand a judgment of a court without being assisted by a lawyer to understand something basic.
Yes, yes. No, I think that's a beautiful response. I'm also of the view that, of course, there should be some sort of transformation because we need to accommodate the ordinary people in the street.
Absolutely.
Often you find that it's only, academics, scholarly people who get to understand how the whole law system works.
It shouldn't be like that.
I'm thinking, is there some sort of coordination between the national office, the judge, the CJ, Chief Justice Mogoeng Mogoeng, in terms of, all these beautiful proposals on how to transform, the law and make it accessible to the ordinary people in the street? Are you sort of having some sort of, conversations with the higher office in terms of how you can make this whole law system very accessible to the people?
In terms of judgment writing, as I indicated earlier, SAJE, which is South African Judicial Education Institute, always give lectures. A year in and year out, almost every year, there will be a lecture to aspirant judges or newly appointed judges. One of the series of lectures that is given is on judgment writing. That's easy to deal with. Now, some of the challenges that we are talking about, making the law accessible to the people, making people understand, relate to the law, that's what I call Africanizing the law.
Yes.
I have publicly said we must Africanize the law. Let me explain what I mean. Our law is very Eurocentric. When we say South African law is common law, that is the law which we have inherited, which is of Roman Dutch origin and English. It's a fusion. South African common law is a fusion of Roman Dutch law, which we inherited from when we were colonized by the Afrikaners, and English law. It is therefore a fusion, right? Now it's called common law. I do not have a problem per se with common law, other than the fact that we must not lose sight of the fact that when that common law was developed, you and I had no right to vote. So it is not common to us. We had no input whatsoever in making and developing what is today called South African common law. So it's clearly not common to us. So when I say Africanize the law, I'm not saying take the legal system and throw it away. You are not going to throw the baby with the bathwater. But you want to make that system of the law, which you have inherited from your colonizers, you want it relevant to the people that it is supposed to regulate. Law is an instrument for engineering social change. Law is about regulating human behavior. Right? So in order for people to understand and identify with the legal system, you must make it relevant to their day-to-day needs and aspirations. I'll give you a number of examples. It's high time that academics, for instance, when they write books, they give examples that we can relate to. Let's take an example, company law. Company law works on this basis. Say there is a company, the shareholders, people who have shares in the company, get what is known as, they are shareholders, they have shares, and they get dividends at the end of the financial year. You can give a very good example that is close to your heart as an African. There is what we call in my culture, ilimo, right? Ilimo, this is what happens. You, for instance, I live here. Neighbors from the vicinity would come and assist when it's time to plow, right? They would come with their grain, they would come with whatever, they will come with their hose, we plow, we work together. That's a very good analogy of a company, but it has the following consequences. That food, those crops will not belong to me only. When it's time to reap, when it's time to harvest, I must share that with the rest of my community. Isn't that an outstanding example?
That's beautiful.
Africanizing the law, Africanizing the Roman Dutch law. Judge Hlophe was talking about Africanizing the Roman Dutch law at the time he was judge president of the Western Cape High Court, which no judge would dare talk about Africanizing the Roman Dutch law when they are in the when they are while they are working, while they are still working. Judge Hlophe, this is what is guilty about. He is guilty of asking the judiciary to be Africanized. He is guilty of asking for the Roman Dutch law to be thrown out of the window and African law be introduced to govern the African people in South Africa. Judge Hlophe suggested that the judiciary should be Africanized. This was far earlier, 4 years ago, before the formation of the MK party. Judge Hlophe was talking about Africanizing the law. Judge Hlophe has never sold out. He was very aware that this stance, this political stance he took, it will put him in hell. Judge Mogoeng Mogoeng has been taken care of by the white system. He was used to remove Judge President John Hlophe of the Western Cape because the system is afraid of his ideas to Africanize the judiciary. Judge Mogoeng Mogoeng, there were a lot of people who were talking about Judge Mogoeng Mogoeng before the elections for him to lead. There were another organizations which wanted him to be a leader, a political leader, but he couldn't be clear about whether he would go and lead black people to liberation or he's not gonna be able to do because he is already a compromised individual. The wise system have taken care of him. He's very compromised. He was afraid of the issues that is already done when he was in the judiciary. The issue of John Hlophe, where he actually agitated for Goliath to complain. The complaint, just to give a background for those who don't understand where does the whole thing comes from. It comes from Judge Hlophe, who was impeached by the Judicial Service Commission. He was impeached by South African Parliament from the recommendation of the JSC. The complaint came from Judge Goliath. Let's follow what happened here. They say Judge Hlophe said to Justice Jafta and Justice Kabinde. They say Judge Hlophe said to them, ngithembele kini mfana ngithembele kini mfana kithi, meaning I trust in you, my fellow man. In a simple in a loosely translation, this is the statement which Judge Hlophe was impeached for saying. And the people who said who heard him say the statement did not complain. They were requested to complain by Mogoeng Mogoeng, and they refused. They said, we did not say anything wrong by what he said, because he only said, he trust us. He trust that we're going to make the right decision. That's the only thing he said. And they never complained until Judge Mogoeng Mogoeng agitated for the complaint to be launched by Judge Goliath. Judge Goliath, who was then the deputy the deputy judge president of the Western Cape, who was looking for to remove Judge Hlophe to get to that position. She's still struggling to get to that position where she's now the acting judge of the Western Cape High Court. She wanted to be in that position. She went to an interview and spoke highly of Judge Hlophe. Actually, let me continue to share this, and then we will continue to dissect the information.
Of a dividend, and the company is issuing out dividends. Why are academics, when they write scholarly books, not use such examples, things that we can relate to as the African people and as the majority in the country? We can multiply examples. All I'm trying to say when I say let us Africanize the law is too Eurocentric, and the judges continue to refer in case after case to what I consider to be foreign law, which is basically European law, which strictly speaking should have no place in our legal system. We should be paying more and more attention to our needs so that our system can rapidly evolve in line with our constitution.
Some beautiful insights right there. I think everyone would be excited to actually, get to hear you as the Judge President of the Western Cape, having those beautiful thoughts on how we need to transform the judiciary and make it accessible to the people, and also Africanize it, as you had said.
Have to Africanize it.
Right. So moving right along, I'm interested. Everyone else is interested in knowing, because we have seen, from the media, we've read from the media, we've learned that, there's some sort of, cases going on at the JSC. But moving into that question, I need to ask, how is your relationship with the judge? I mean, the CJ, the Chief Justice of, the Republic of South Africa, Mogoeng Mogoeng.
I respect Chief Justice Mogoeng Mogoeng as a judge, as a human being, and as a colleague. He is the head of the judiciary. He is therefore my boss. I respect him. And I thought there was mutual respect until recent events. When I say recent events, in January this year, there was a complaint which was widely publicized against me, which was lodged by Deputy Judge President Goliath. That was on the 15th of January, 2020. I responded to that complaint. I subsequently filed a counter-complaint. The matter was heard by the JCC, the Judicial Conduct Commission, and basically by a majority of 2 against 1, dismissing the complaint by Goliath. Subsequent thereto, there were other events that took place. To cut the long story short, Chief Justice Mogoeng Mogoeng intervened and wrote a judgment in terms of which he referred the complaint against me by Deputy Judge President Goliath to the Judicial Service Tribunal, right, which obviously would initiate the impeachment proceedings. At the time of the ruling by the Chief Justice, I read his judgment several times. It is very clear the language that the Chief Justice used in his judgment. For instance, he makes reference to violence against women. The charge, there was no complaint by Deputy Judge President against me relating to any acts of violence directed to her. There was none. So these are some of the things that I began to question when I analyzed the judgment. But subsequent thereto, Chief Justice Mogoeng Mogoeng issued a statement, a media statement. This was clearly in response to an inquiry by Daily Maverick. It transpired that on the 11th of October 2019, Judge Goliath had a scheduled secret meeting with the Chief Justice in Johannesburg. I did not know about that meeting to begin with. And the Judicial Conduct Committee, at the time when it had the complaint, did not know about that. In other words, it was not disclosed to the Judicial Conduct Commission that the Chief Justice had a scheduled prior meeting with the complainant way back on the 11th of October 2019. The same Chief Justice who subsequently sat in a matter in respect of which he was privy to a wide range of allegations against me. The same Chief Justice sat in that matter and wrote a judgment, which I challenge you to read, was clearly one-sided. In terms of that judgment, he dismissed a valid complaint of racism against Patricia Goliath, my deputy, and the complaints against me were upheld and they were referred to the Judicial Conduct Tribunal. Two things that are important in this regard. There was a scheduled meeting. It was a secret meeting. I did not know about it. And this was way back on the 11th of October 2020. At that meeting, I don't know who was present, but it is clear that the meeting was about me. Justice Mogoeng never told me anything. It took him 7 months before he went public and said indeed there was a meeting. And the statement that he made was not a statement made under oath. In other words, he is yet to tell under oath exactly what was discussed at that meeting. He has not taken the South African public into confidence under oath as to exactly what was discussed at that meeting. It was a scheduled meeting. Judge Goliath was supposed to be sitting in court on a Friday. I had allocated work to her. She lied to a colleague that she was supposed to sit with and said she had a private business matter to attend. Right. Meanwhile, she had a scheduled prior meeting with the Chief Justice. Are you aware that I have filed a complaint against Chief Justice Mogoeng? It is dated the 14th of September 2020. Okay. It's a detailed complaint. It's a complaint of gross misconduct against the Chief Justice. Oh. Chief Justice Mogoeng instigated the complaint against me. He, through Patricia Goliath, he encouraged Judge Parker to file a false complaint of assault against me. Judge Parker has gone public and denied that he was assaulted by me. But Justice Mogoeng instigated the complaint and asked Judge Goliath to tell Judge Parker that there was a scheduled meeting. And Parker said, I'm not interested and I'm not complaining. After the meeting, Goliath returned to Judge Parker and said, I've been with the Chief Justice. He is waiting for the complaint. This is the number of Mr. Slingers. Mr. Slingers is the PA of the Chief Justice. Again, Judge Parker declined and said, I am not complaining. I have no problems with Judge Hlophe. right? So you have a Chief Justice who is sitting on the bench,
Yes.
who instigates a complaint against a fellow judge. He is involved in the investigation of that complaint. He prosecutes that complaint. He waits for it. When it comes, he takes it back from the JCC, Judicial Conduct Tribunal. He writes a ruling. That's unheard of. That is unheard of. It's not done. So he played the role of an instigator, an investigator, a policeman, or a policeman because he did the investigation. He prosecuted and he sat in his own cause. And quite frankly, the truth is yet to be told as to what transpired at that private scheduled meeting. The Chief Justice is yet to go on oath and tell the South African public under oath what was discussed at that meeting and why did he sit and instigate a complaint against me. The reason why nobody is talking about that complaint is because everybody is aware of the complaint and it is being swept under the carpet. The reason why everybody sees me as a naughty boy of the judiciary is because that's all the public is told every day. You will never believe anything if you are not told about it. There are so many judges, for instance, in this country that there are complaints pending against them, including Chief Justice Mogoeng himself. The complaint has not even been acknowledged. Nobody is talking about it. It is being swept under the carpet, and I'm not.
This is the complaint that was just revived. This is the complaint which has just been revived by Judge Hlophe and the MK party. This was 2020. They complained about Chief Justice Mogoeng Mogoeng. He acted as an instigator of the charges. He acted as a prosecutor. He acted as the judge in the case in one case. So why is this important? If it is found that Chief Justice Mogoeng Mogoeng acted dishonorably by getting going into a meeting with Judge Goliath and getting a preview about the judgment that he was supposed to make or instigating the charges. If it is discovered that by law that Mogoeng Mogoeng acted dishonorably, then it means the impeachment of Judge Hlophe has to be challenged because it comes from, that's where it comes from. Nkosana Fulani says, keep up the good work, my brother. Thank you very much. Thank you for acknowledging the good work. Thank you for your support. Click the like button and subscribe to the Royal Opinion if you are new here. We talk politics here and we analyze politics better than the political analyst. Bought out characters in the name of political analyst in the SABC and the E-News channel. Judge Hlophe here talking about the propaganda which people hear, because nobody knew until Mogoeng retired. He's even retired now. Most of the people did not know that there has been a complaint about Judge Mogoeng Mogoeng, who is protected by the system. He knows he's guilty. Yeah, he's going to be found guilty. That's why he needed to cooperate with the system. He needed to cooperate with white people so that this charge is not put upon him, because they don't have honor if they feel they can't use you anymore, or if they turn against you, or if you turn against them, they easily turn against you. And if they can't use you anymore, they turn against you again. So the system turns against the people that helps it stands in this African land. The white system turns against its own spies. So Mogoeng Mogoeng has been taken care of and has been protected by the system. But now the MK party and Judge Hlophe have revived those charges of Mogoeng Mogoeng. He's now referred to, um, which can lead to impeachment. He may be impeached at the end of the day because his impeachment proceedings will start. He will have to respond to the complaints on exactly. He actually responded, and then that's the reason why they referred it um, for the judicial investigation, that it should be investigated and it should be heard. It should set and be heard. And if he's found guilty, it's going to be it's going to be a very interesting time in South African politics, because um, the impeachment of John Hlophe can be challenged from this, because that's where it comes from. It comes from these accusations by Mogoeng Mogoeng to Judge Hlophe. So people will judge, and history will tell who is Mogoeng Mogoeng. Was he for the black people, or was he working for the white system? Judge Mogoeng Mogoeng, is he a compromised individual working for the white system, or is he the hero of black people? So you will make your own judgment. I trust Judge Hlophe. Judge Hlophe is the hero of black people. Judge Hlophe cannot be bought. Um, and Judge Hlophe has sacrificed his career to protect black people, to protect the landless, to protect the poor, and to destroy the system, to destroy the colonial system. He has sacrificed himself, he has sacrificed his children. It was easier for him to live nice life with white people when compromised. It was going to be easier for him to do that, but Judge Hlophe did not sell out. Let's continue to hear him share the story.
Not going to allow that. You asked me about the complaints that are pending before the Judicial Service Commission. I mentioned, I started from the most recent one, the one that was filed by Judge Goliath on the 15th of January this year, right? The complaint, which has been outstanding now for some 13 years, was first brought against me by the judges of the Constitutional Court way back in 2008.
Yes.
The complaint was that I tried improperly to influence them to rule in favor of the former president of this country, Mr. Jacob Zuma.
Correct.
The two judges that I allegedly spoke to were Judges Nkabinde and Jafta. To date, they have not filed a complaint. Instead, judges that I did not even speak to are complaining. Right. That again, so when I saw this new complaint by Patricia Goliath that I assaulted Judge Parker,
Yes.
it is a mirror image of the old complaint of 2000.
Let's follow. Judge Kabinde did not complain about what Judge Hlophe said. Judge Hlophe, Judge Jafta never complained about what Judge Hlophe said. They said they did not see anything wrong. Judge Goliath, who was the deputy president, judge president of the Western Cape, when Judge Hlophe was the leader there, she was the one who was complaining, being used by the system in order to reward her with the top position of being judge president of the Western Cape. She was trying to remove Judge Hlophe for her own ambition. Judge Goliath. The people who are said to have been offended have never complained. First, it was Judge Kabinde and Judge Jafta. Secondly, it's the assault case against who is the other judge? I forgot, but it's not Goliath. The other judge did not complain about assault from Judge Hlophe. The Goliath is the one who complained about Judge Hlophe. Let's follow the story.
2008, whereby the persons or judges that I allegedly spoke to are not complaining, but their colleagues, some of them were not even in the building, are the ones who are complaining. It's exactly the same thing here. Judge Parker is not complaining. He has not laid any criminal charges against me. He is on record as having said he was not assaulted by me. We resolved whatever differences we had. Yet there are judges in the division, Patricia Goliath,
Yes.
ably assisted by Chief Justice Mogoeng. They are complaining against me. Meanwhile, the person who was allegedly assaulted by me is not complaining. So this complaint is a mirror image of the old complaint in 2008. Right? Perhaps you want to ask me, why do I think?
In fact, I was coming to that. Yes.
In 2000 and before 2004, I was a darling of the legal profession. Everybody loved me.
And why was
I
that?
was scholarly, writing beautiful judgments. You can still read them.
Yes.
Right? I was loved by everybody. So many people, in fact, including the late Chief Justice Charles Carlson.
Yes.
I was even tipped to be Chief Justice.
Yes.
So many people said that, including the late Chief Justice Charles Carlson, including the present Chief Justice Mogoeng Mogoeng. He said to me at least on 2 occasions that he knew that I was tipped to be Chief Justice before him. He knows that. So I was a darling of the profession. The turning point was in 2004.
What happened?
In 2004, I authored a report on racism based on my experience.
Yeah.
Remember, I was appointed as a judge in 1995. So it took me time to experience different things and to look around, share the common experiences with fellow black judges, look at what is happening in the profession. I decided to address it because at that time I was already judge president. I was appointed as judge president on the 1st of May, year 2000.
Yeah.
So I'm the judge president now. I said, look, I'm not prepared to continue to preside over this racism. I filed a report, detailed various instances of racism that I experienced as a judge and the other fellow judges and members of the profession, black people who are experiencing. Yes. I'll give you one example. What they would do, for instance, I allocate a case to a black judge, it's urgent, they don't like it, suddenly they find a way, they say, no, we've settled, we're going to postpone it. How do you postpone the hearing of a matter which is urgent?
Yes.
But if I similarly allocate an urgent matter to a white colleague, they rush to court, they get the results. There were a number of instances which are detailed in my report, the racism report, and I mentioned big names in that report.
Yeah.
And to this very date, I never had peace after the racism report of year 2004. There were attempts even to sue me There were attempts to insult me year in and year out. It all started in 2004 with the racism report.
Yeah.
Remember, in 2008, the racism report had already been filed at least 4 years prior to that.
Yes.
So it all started in the year 2004. Prior to that, I was adored, I was revered, I was a darling of the profession. I used to do so much. I would train judges, I would be called to investigate this, train aspirant judges. All of that is a thing of the past. I am now publicly insulted and nullified and treated like a corrupt person or an illegitimate child of the family. It all started when I told the truth about the legal profession. And one of the things that I raised was skewed briefing patterns.
Yeah.
We live in a country where the economy is still in the hands of very few South Africans, and it's largely white South Africans, and that is a fact. So I also said in my racism report, lawyers of today, attorneys and advocates, are judges of tomorrow. So if the briefing patterns are skewed, inevitably white lawyers get better training because they get good quality work from good quality law firms. Those good quality law firms get that work from white clients. So if you have skewed briefing patterns, inevitably black lawyers are relegated, right? They are of secondary importance. A white person is enabled, he gets training, he's exposed, he gets work from fellow white people. Right. They are in control of the economy. They are in control as to who should be given work.
Yes.
So I argued in my racism report that the profession must do something about that. One of the things that the profession could do, it is simply, for instance, insist that whenever a senior black white lawyer appears, he or she must be accompanied by a junior black. There are various ways of ensuring that the briefing patterns are level, that they are not skewed.
Yes.
Because lawyers of today are judges of tomorrow.
Ladies and gentlemen, royals, you all heard, and everybody who's got ears to hear will now know that Judge Hlophe was impeached for his racism report. He wrote racism report in 2004 about what is happening in the judiciary, the racism which is happening in the judiciary. He wrote that report after he was judge, president of the Western Cape. He was the beloved of the system before he wrote the racism report, because he was highly educated, more than a lot of judges there. He was tipped to be Chief Justice, like he's saying. But after writing that racism report, after exposing the system, what is happening inside the judiciary, the system wanted him removed from the judiciary, because they immediately realized that if they allow him to rise above where he is, because the next stage where he was going to be Chief Justice. Uh, I guess he was supposed to just lie low until he became just Chief Justice and then write the report. I wonder what would they have done. They would come up upon him while he is already Chief Justice. So now they came upon him. They used all their power. The case is more than 15 years old. These people have been on top of Judge Hlophe since 2004. Today is 2024. 20 years later, they succeed to remove John Hlophe without him doing anything wrong in the legal profession. They removed him for daring to suggest that the judiciary in South Africa should be transformed, racism should be rooted out of the judiciary, and for daring to say that the Roman Dutch law should be Africanized. The Roman Dutch law, which is practiced in South Africa, should be Africanized. And for saying this is not fair, the Roman Dutch law is not common to Africans because it was drafted without our involvement. It was drafted with us, with us being slaves in the mind of white people. So the law takes black people like they are slaves. The law treats black people like they are slaves, and the law treats white people like they are masters because it's not common. It's not common law to us. Judge Hlophe suggested that this law should be scrapped, should be removed, and be replaced by an African law. Give us your opinion. Tell us what you think about Judge Hlophe and his suggestion to Africanize the law. History should be recorded correctly. Let's record history correctly. Let's not say Judge Hlophe was impeached for judicial misconduct. Judge Hlophe was impeached for writing the racism report. Judge Hlophe was impeached for suggesting that there should be transformation in the judiciary. Let us be clear so that the law is, so that the history is recorded correctly. Judge Hlophe was impeached for suggesting that reports should be written in a most simpler way so that anybody who is reading the judgments can be able to understand. Even those who did not go to school can be able to understand your judgment. If you say I'm guilty, the one who is guilty should be able to understand why they are guilty. If they are not able to understand and they need a lawyer to interpret, it means they are not guilty. It means they did not even know about the law. And how do you find people guilty of laws that they don't even know? So Judge Hlophe was impeached by the system for daring to stand for black people. Let us be clear and record the history correctly. One of the things that we do in the royal opinion is to correct and record the history in a correct manner, because the system record history for the future incorrectly, purposefully, so that the future, when they read about what happened in the past, they are confused about who is the hero and who is the enemy. Judge Hlophe is the hero of the people. Mogoeng Mogoeng is a collaborator of the system.
Correct.
Of course, I was insulted. There were people who denied that there is racism in the profession. Some even said Hlophe is mad, Hlophe is unstable. Alas, unless if you want me to believe that there is racism in South Africa, but somehow the legal profession is insulated, please go and tell that to the birds. You can't have a legal profession which is insulated in circumstances where there is racism throughout the Republic of South Africa. The legal profession is no different. It's high time that we talk about it. When I raised it, I was insulted. I am still paying the price even today.
So in terms of, the racism report you filed back then, you make mention that there were people who wanted to sue you for the report. People were not happy with the report, and you also allege that there are, even if I understand very correctly, fellow judges who actually denied that there is, some patterns of racism in the judiciary.
Yes. I was subjected to all kinds of pressure. There were certain judges that I mentioned in the report. Some are dead and some are still alive. And there were certain prominent advocates. Some of them have passed on and some are still alive. Various attempts were made to suppress the racism report. I even remember the late Chief Justice Langa was asked by the late Chief Justice Charles Carlson to come to the Western Cape and talk to me, try to persuade me to withdraw the racism report, and I refused. I communicated that to Chief Justice Langa. I refused to withdraw it. So there were various attempts that were made to bring about pressure to bear upon me to withdraw the racism report. I refused to withdraw it because those allegations stand. They are as valid as they were in 2004. We can test them very quickly. Have the briefing patterns changed, particularly in the Western Cape? The answer is no. That explains why every year you get new, we admit young black women and men, but they don't stay because there is no work for them. They are in and out in the profession, right? Has racism in South Africa as a whole, has it disappeared suddenly? Has it faded? It is still alive. So I still ask myself, why am I being persecuted for telling the truth? That there is racism in the profession.
And now, Judge President, why would the then, Chief Justice try to persuade you to withdraw the report?
Well,
because now I'm thinking to myself, if you had come up with such a beautiful report, airing your views out there, giving people the insights of what is happening in the judiciary, you obviously, are steering this transformation which we all desire to have in the country. And yet you've got fellow judges who are saying that you must be suppressed. In fact, you must remove the report. Why is that?
Well, I can only speculate. Part of the reason could be that I mentioned names, big names in the report, people who were carrying themselves out as liberal. But I came up with evidence that proved that they were not as liberal as they were, right? That's part of the reason. But I also think the report was ahead of its time. I think at the time, people did not want to talk about racism, right? It was in 2004 for one reason or the other. But now we are beginning to see a groundswell. A lot of South Africans are experiencing racism, and they are talking more and more about it. They're outspoken about it, whereas in the past, I think people did not want to talk about it. It's something that people just did not want to talk about.
Yeah, no,
It is still a hot potato. You talk about it, you suffer the consequences.
You indeed suffer the consequences.
Yes.
Now, you've made mention of the former president, Jacob Zuma.
Yes.
What is your relationship with the president? And maybe the follow-up question would be, have you been to Nkandla?
No, I've never been to Nkandla. I first met President Jacob Zuma in Stenga. I normally attend Mkito Gashaka on the 24th of September.
Yes.
I think that was the first time I met President Jacob Zuma there. But also my son, Tutuga. I have a son, my firstborn, Tutuga, is a friend to Zuma's daughter, right, who in turn was married to Hlophe Chwete, the son to the late Steve Chwete.
Yes.
And obviously, when he was the president, there were occasions that I went to Denny's, for instance, to swear in an acting minister. For instance, Minister Bongo, right? Bongani Bongo I administered the oath of office to him when he became the minister.
So you have not allocated cases, concerning Jacob Zuma to judges that might be very close to you, influencing the outcome of the court.
Right. Knowing President Zuma is one thing. We are not friends.
Yes.
For instance, let us take Upana Pastulu. He is my lawyer.
Yes.
But I think it's fair to say he is more than my lawyer. He is a brother, he is a friend.
Yes.
I'll be very uncomfortable. I can't sit in a matter involving Upana Pastulu. President Zuma is not the only head of state that I have met in my life. I also met Mandela way back in 1994. He wanted to buy my house in Transkei, at Fort Gale. He came there, he met me in 1996 when I was here in Cape Town as a judge. He remembered that very distinctly.
Yes.
So President Zuma is not the only president that I knew and that I have met. Again, President Thabo Mbeki. I met the president because I had occasion, at least 2 or 3 occasions, to go to Parliament upon being invited by the president to go and administer the oath of office to a minister or an acting minister. So President Jacob Zuma is not the only head of state that I have met in this country. But I'm not saying he is definitely not my friend.
So he would not receive favors from you?
Definitely he won't receive favors. He would never receive any favors from me.
Okay, and with the sitting current president, Ramaphosa, have you met him?
I have met President Ramaphosa at least on 3 occasions.
Okay.
The first time, if I remember well, when I met him, it was way back when he was still active in the struggle in the 80s. I think he was with, I will tell you, NUM.
Okay.
Right, way back, that I don't even think he would remember that. The second time when I met the president, we were in Pretoria at the residence of the President Jacob Zuma. There was a meeting that President Jacob Zuma convened with the judiciary. I was part of that judiciary. I remember at that meeting even the former Deputy President, Dikgang Moseneke, was there.
Yes.
So it was a meeting convened between the politicians led by President Jacob Zuma and the judiciary. We were led by our own Chief Justice. He was definitely there. He remembers.
Do you sort of want to give us details of the meeting that was convened by the then president?
I think the meeting dealt inter alia with some of the tension and expectations and challenges that the judiciary had vis-a-vis the executive. But it was a widely publicized meeting. I went there in my capacity as a head of court. It was not a scheduled secret meeting like the meeting between Goliath and Mogoeng. No.
This is an exclusive interview with the Judge President Hlophe of the Western Cape. Judge President, your wife, Judge Sally Hlophe, is a member of the judiciary in the Western Cape.
Yes, that is so. She's a judge.
And you're responsible, as the head of the judiciary in the province to allocate cases.
That's right.
And some people would actually say it as a conflict of interest, and I understand that there's been complaints that you sort of, allocate some cases for her.
Right.
How true is that?
Is it true she's one of the judges in the Western Cape? She reports to me like all judges. I also allocate work to.
So this is when they started witch hunting. They did not know how to get Judge President John Hlophe because he was not guilty of anything. The only guilty thing he did was to be honest about the existence of racism in the judiciary as early as 2004, writing a report about racism. From then onwards, the system wanted him removed from his position as Judge President of the Western Cape. They have tried to use the judges, others have refused. They have promised other judges to give them work and to give them positions if they help them to get rid of Judge Hlophe. His complaint was taken to the Judicial Service Commission and it was rejected. Judge Hlophe won the case, but Helen Zille again brought it back because she's got a super right to override whoever. Helen Zille have got super rights to override whomever in South Africa is making any comment or any judgment about anything in South Africa if it affects white people. Helen Zille has got super rights to be able to, she's got veto powers. We can call her Madam Veto Powers. She's got veto powers. Even now, she's got veto power. She vetoed the Bella bill. She vetoed the section that she did not want. She vetoed the issue of Judge Hlophe back to the Judicial Service Commission to get him impeached. She got President Zuma to be out. She removed President Zuma as the president of the republic. Helen Zille has got veto powers to remove black leaders. She's the one who is the custodian of the system at the moment, the custodian of the colonial system. So Judge Hlophe, that is the story about Judge Hlophe. Judge Hlophe has been removed and he's been impeached because of his racism report and his suggestion to transform the judiciary. That's the reason why Judge Hlophe was impeached. President Zuma tomorrow will appeal his sentence. Tomorrow, President Zuma will appeal his expulsion from the ANC. President Zuma still on his course to save the ANC. A lot of black people did not understand and the media acted confused when President Zuma announced the MK party and said, I want to rescue the ANC. A lot of black people now are actually aware what President Zuma meant when he said he wanted to rescue the ANC. A lot of us now understand what the old man meant when he said he wanted to rescue the ANC. So tomorrow is launching an appeal against his expulsion from the ANC because he was expelled from the ANC. So tomorrow is launching his appeal. We will be watching and we will be talking about it. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, for joining us into this podcast. We only wanted to reveal why Judge Hlophe was impeached and why ultimately he filed the complaint against Judge Mogoeng Mogoeng. Thank you very much. Click the like button and subscribe.